on, everybody. Right on. Thank you for being here, and it all too appropriate as you feel it in your soul. Someone who's very close to the Vatican, very close to that world, ambassador to the Holy See under the Bush administration. He is a returning contestant. Comes back for another round. How about it for Ambassador Francis Rooney, everyone? Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Great.
All right. Well, that's everybody I care about for now. So let's press ahead. I'm super anxious to get your thoughts on a number of things. I want to get your thoughts on the relevance of and the importance of and even the disposition of the new Pope when we get to that, because that's sort of an area you know so very well. But because you served in Congress, and you, as a member of Congress, you were part of a GOP that feels as though it might have quacked a little differently than the GOP of today. I'm curious if I'm curious as to your just general impressions of everything going on today, and your party, which is control of both houses of Congress, has the executive branch, and it would seem the Supreme Court is dominated by sort of a GOP disposition. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on the state of the state.
Well, I'm not sure that the MAGA group is the old GOP.
You're not sure?
I grew up with Ronald Reagan. I worked for two Bushes.
Yeah.
It was an entirely different world. The constituency of the Republican Party now is a lot of people that used to be Democrats. The people that used to be the core of the Republican Party are flailing around or becoming Democrats, I guess. I don't know what most people are doing. I'm trying to figure out where this thing's going to go. But
what would you do if you were those people who you talk about? Like, I guess you're talking about the Liz Cheneys of the world, kind of.
Sure.
In that,
and
yes,
me.
okay.
Yeah. And, the fact is they still need us. Okay. They have low 30s of hardcore MAGA people, but they can't get across the finish line in a general without us. They can win a primary. And that's the unfortunate fact that it's driving all parties to the extremes. But at the end of the day, you got to have the middle to win in the big election. And that's where we're going to have our opportunity to speak.
So of the things that are going on right now, what is the thing that you find you're bothered by the most? What shocks you the most? What
is this a 3-hour interview or just hit the high points?
Well, there is a lot. I mean, there is a lot, isn't there?
FCC chairman said was outrageous. The thought of an FCC chairman talking about bullying networks to provide content that the FCC wants is outrageous in our free democracy. Some of the comments made by other administration officials about prosecuting hate crimes, which are not hate crimes. If you look at Brandenburg versus Ohio, the standard's very strict. These are very disquieting to me. I think we're entering kind of a wannabe authoritarian world here.
The fact that Donald Trump turned early on against the world of academia, the law, and media, that's sort of authoritarianism on full view, isn't it?
It is. How about a 3.5-hour cabinet meeting on TV? That reminds me of Allo Senor Presidente, what Chavez used to do. He used to have these 3-hour marathon TV sessions where he would explain his view of everything. That's what we got going now.
It's funny that the despots through history can really riff for hours. I remember the Castro could go on for 4 or 5 hours. They talked about that, and it just. And I'm sorry, I put Trump in the same category. And
Eisenhower said, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it can rhyme."
Sure,
and it's rhyming now.
Yeah, and it's not rhyming with anything that we've seen in America before, is it, Ambassador?
No, I think it's challenging a lot of our fundamental institutions. I mean, the institution of the impartial bureaucracy. Trump's turned them into demons. The respect for separation of powers. He's tried to shatter that at every step. Congress is a willing participant because they're so scared of losing their job that they've given all their authority away. And I felt that when I was in Congress too. I said, what am I doing down here? We don't do anything. We do whatever someone else tells us to do.
This is where the traditional GOP, of which you're a part, I suppose, you just said you were, is finding itself honestly complicit in what's happening. There were opportunities to push back against this president, but as you suggested, they were frightened. They were just scared.
Well, you look at some really good people in the leadership now that have generally had different views than Trump, they're cowering to him. That's like The Road to Serfdom. Every American should read The Road to Serfdom by Friedrich Hayek, because it happened in Germany, it happened in Russia, and it can happen here.
Even the suggestion of kind of the deal with Ukraine, the posture toward Ukraine and Russia, feels as though it has a kind of an appeasement associated with that which we saw in World War II in the primordial ooze of World War II.
Well, it's going to take a lot more resources than anyone's been willing to devote to beat Putin, because he doesn't care if he kills every living Ukrainian. He just wants the property. And unless we choke off his economy, and we got to get the Europeans to quit buying his oil and gas, that's the only thing I can think of that would help do that. He's going to continue to do what he's doing.
Why do you suppose that the president's had such a friendly posture toward Vladimir Putin and these clearly expansionist impulses that he has?
I don't know. There have been a lot of theories advanced about that. There's been theories advanced that there's certain personality types that he respects. There's been theories advanced about money. But at the end of the day, I give the president the benefit of the doubt and say he's trying to figure out a way out of this, and that involves appealing to both sides. I give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know if it's the case or not, but we've got to appeal to Putin and Zelensky. They're going to have to meet in the middle. Russia's not going to give up the territory they have, and we're not going to allow Ukraine to get into NATO.
When it comes to other international relationships, it seems as though this incoming administration just less than a year ago was already sort of on an adversarial footing with some of our longest term allies and trading partners, Canada, Mexico. There was the tariff policy, which seemed to be, somehow preordained in some way, such that, one couldn't even really apply any arithmetic to it. I wonder if you can give me some thoughts on, again, the relationships between America and all of these other countries to which I've referred, sort of, that are implied here, and also the economic viability of what this administration is doing.
Well, we're hurting some of our best friends, Canada and Mexico, with whom we are wed geographically and economically. And they're all doing the things that we have pushed them to do for the last 50 years. And I can't see how these tariffs are going to work out when we get so many auto parts from Mexico, steel from Mexico, aluminum and building materials from Canada. We're going to start to see those things filter through the cost structure in the United States, and that's not good. And take poor Vietnam, okay? Vietnam picked up the mantle and took over a lot of offshore manufacturing that we wanted them to take over to get away from China, and now we're putting tariffs on them.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Vietnam, because I think it's also an example of the president extracting something from Vietnam, a concession in the way of building the Trump resort that they wanted to build there for some time. In return for, it was implicit, I suppose, for the lifting of the tariffs. They did this, as you're aware. They moved people who were in residence there.
It's a little sad here. It's a little dirty.
Yeah, you worked in Washington, and you know that, politics can be a dirty business sort of day to day, but wouldn't you concede the dirtiness is now rising to a level we'd never seen before?
Well, those kind of quid pro quos are kind of an all-time high. That's ought to be quasi illegal. But, we have a government that has taken directions that none of us know how to deal with. It's never been done before. The authoritarian language, the oppression of the bureaucracy, the aggression towards our neighbors and friends. And at the end of the day, tariffs have never worked. And I can't imagine how they're going to work now as producers get their distributors and consumers to ultimately pay for them.
Now to an area you know so very well also, and that is the Catholic Church and the new Pope, who is an American. Were you surprised, by the way, by the fact that an American was chosen?
Oh, for sure. I never thought they'd pick an American. 82% of all popes have been from Italy, and really all but about 3 have been from Europe. There was one guy from England in the 10th century. And by and large, I thought Pietro Parolin had the inside track. He was the number 2 in the Secretary of State's office that I dealt with when I was ambassador. But there were 3 or 4 other Italians in the running, and I don't think they could come together around Cardinal Parolin. And so the momentum shifted to Cardinal Prevost.
The Pope is, maybe you can describe him for those of us who don't sort of follow this stuff as closely. The Pope is what? Can you describe him, his posture toward any number of things that cross the desk
This
of the
particular
papacy?
Pope?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sure. I know him very well. I've known him for years. He was head of the Midwest Augustinian Order when I was on the board of an Augustinian school that all children attended in Tulsa. He came down to the board meetings every month.
Oh, wow.
Have the board meeting, and then we'd have a social night, a cocktail reception and dinner, and et cetera. And then in 2002, I believe, maybe 3, he became head of all the Augustinian Order in Rome. And we went over to see him with the kids. And then in 2005, we moved to Rome to do the ambassador job. And third night we were there, we had dinner with him. We had him over to the house all the time for 3 years.
So how might he change anything that's the existing Catholic Church or Catholic doctrine, or suggest changes?
I think that he will be much more calm and judicious than Pope Francis, who could be a little raspy at times. I think he will be more faithful to church doctrine than Pope Francis, but he will be also more focused on the human condition as Pope Francis was, kind of down the middle.
When you say raspy, that's interesting to me. You mean commenting or outspoken about certain things going on in the world, or what do you mean by raspy?
Oh, Pope Francis? Well, what did he say? All these things about the United States, about migrants, about the evil of not dealing with migrants. He used expressive language, put it that way. Whereas I think you'll see Pope Leo being more judicious in his phraseology. But
so
he'll say
it's more style than a changed disposition toward those issues. Okay.
No pope is going to not seek better treatment of at-risk, marginalized migrant people. That's their job, and they should. And I think he'll do it in a more effective manner, perhaps, than Pope Francis. And he's already started that, talking about some of the evils of the immigration activity that we're doing in the United States right now. And
when you say effective, you mean that he could actually help produce change, or what defines efficacy?
I think his message will resonate better with people.
I see.
Than being barked at. If he says, that these are human beings too, and yes, they're here illegally, and they need to be vetted, instead of just saying, oh, the United States is a criminal country because it's rounding up immigrants. And I think that there's room in there that he might be able to actually improve the plight of some illegal aliens in the United States who have clean records by his pronouncements. And I hope so, because we need the workers. The math doesn't work in the U.S. without them.
This is the ridiculousness of the policy, because it's about to turn the American economy, along with the tariffs, on its side, in my judgment. Right. Now, you can help me with something as someone who's far more learned in these areas of religion. And you'll pardon me, because I don't mean to fold something that is quite well advertised right now on social media. Maybe you've heard about this. The rapture is coming, and they have specific dates for it now. I wonder if you can remind me and again, the rapture is the end times, right? Isn't that the and maybe that's not part of Catholicism.
It's not Catholic, but it's evangelical, and there's a lot of evangelicals that want to go sit up on top of some mountain somewhere and await the rapture. Okay.
I see. Okay. Well, it's interesting to me that it's become so much a part of mainstream social media. I guess it's a story. End times gets a couple of clicks, so maybe that's why it lives so prominently on social media. But it's interesting to me that religion generally, I think, and even the message of Christ, I would say, and those religions that I would associate with Christianity are being reconstituted all the time. And even as this new crew comes to power, I'm talking about the MAGA world, it seems to be defined in some ways by a religiosity that isn't Catholic, and it isn't even Christian. They even suggest Jesus, his message isn't necessarily extreme enough in some cases as they would like to see. I mean, it's an odd thing to hear from so many.
Yeah, I think they're kind of radical evangelicals. And I don't know where the message comes from, if it's based in any kind of scripture or anything like that. But I do know that since Pope Leo became Pope, hits on Vatican internet sites and interest in the Vatican is up a lot. A lot of young people have expressed interest in Pope Leo and his talking. You know, the Jumbotron he did at White Sox Park attracted millions of viewers. And so if he can enthuse these young people about Catholicism and about religion in general, that's a really good thing.
Pope Leo, good for the brand, is what you're telling me. Is that right?
Totally.
Ambassador, I love our chats, brief as they are. Appreciate you coming through, and I look forward to the next time.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, all the best. Ambassador
Hi, it's
Francis
Mark,
Rooney.
and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.